Moo and hello everybody. Welcome to the Pinktron. I am Brent Robinson and we've got a full house today. Let's start. We got Steve Pritchard. Steve's not drinking anything. Oh no, sorry, he's got a bottle of wine, but I think he's not going to say anything. He's just going to wave because he's just here to add hand signals. You'll just have to trust us that he's contributing to the conversation otherwise.
Hello,
But otherwise, oh, there he is. All right. Otherwise, we have Maryline DeVlager. Oh man. Maryline, what are you drinking?
I'm a bit boring today. I've got uh, a ride tomorrow, so I'm doing a little bit of carb loading. So I've got a very nice bottle of chocolate and cherry shake with some oatmeal added for the extra carbs.
Sounds delicious.
It's quite good.
Good, good. And we have with us also Chris Greenland. Chris, what are you drinking?
Oh, sorry. I've been boring again. Been boring all week, actually. My kids got me sick, so I'm just nursing a little bit of black tea at the moment. Sorry.
It's all good. Might be the theme until we get to the end here. And we also have Craig Martin. Craig, what are you drinking?
So I jumped straight from a meeting into this, but I did make a quick detour to the fridge, and I have a lumbersexual session IPA.
Awesome. I'm wearing the appropriate shirt for that. Apparently, you can't see it, but it is plaid and flannel. And we also have Sean Fogenberg. Sean, are you gonna be able to talk? And what are you drinking?
Oh yeah, I sound worse than Chris. I'm drinking a LaCroix passion fruit, like boring Sean this time.
Good, good. And we have a very special guest with us today. You know him, we know him, we all love him. With us is James Bailey. James, what are you drinking?
So I'm a little bit disappointed, like what appears to have happened to this podcast in the last 12 months, because we're getting an awful lot of boring drinks. But I have a bottle of Cabernet Shiraz called Shot in the Dark, and it has many words written on the back, trying to tie it very, very loosely to why it's called Shot in the Dark. And my only assumption is that they decided that would be a good name, but it's quite tasty.
Was it from Aldi?
No, actually, I sent Craig a picture earlier. My free monthly Lifewaits delivery arrived today, which is generally 12 bottles of pure glory. So actually, it is not £4.50 from Aldi. It's actually a probably medium price bottle. So I'm upmarket today.
Nice. It was 5 pounds. Steve is slandering James as we in the chat.
All right, Pritchard, it was £8.50.
Was any of those bottles of Malbec though? That's what we really need to know.
Oh, I don't think there is. Actually, no, that's a lie. There's 12 bottles. I think two are Malbec, two are Rioja, two are Cabernet Shiraz, and the other, like, no idea.
That is acceptable. You can be non-boring for all the rest of us because I am also boring. It is literally noon here in where I am as we record, and I am drinking a strawberry bubbly, and I have not had a drink since December 31st of 2023. So I remain on the wagon for 2024, despite 2024's best efforts to remind me otherwise.
What's the instigation? Just health?
Yeah, a little bit of health, a little bit of um role modeling for the kids, I think. I've got a 17 and a 19-year-old who maybe don't need to see their parents just drinking for casual around the
At
house
11
that
o'clock in the
much.
morning on a Friday,
Yeah, that kind of thing
yeah.
too. So a few different things. But speaking of things that are like a wagon, trying to hold on to the A's and herd winter racing as we race up Ocean Lava Cliffside Loop this week on herd winter racing.
Well done.
I think
Well done. I was seeing you struggle with how you were going to land that, Brett. Well done.
I think that segue just killed Chris.
Our weekly sweaty transition.
All right, Maryline, what do we got for ocean? What do we got? Ocean lava cliffside loop. What's this looking like?
What's this looking like? Oh, I think we all know it. I think most of us done it a few weeks ago in ZRL. You start at the pens at the bay or at the downtown Utopia, and then you go around the volcano, up the dirty suppressor, which is probably the first point where some stupidity will happen. And then, well, you got a little bit of recovery before the big part of the stupidity will come at the start of the reverse climb. Then over the cliff roads and down back to the tunnels and into downtown Watopia again for the finish sprint. That's it.
Yeah. The bypass where dreams go to die.
Yeah, I always die there.
Yeah, just you think
My dreams always died well before the bypass. It's always the dirty suppressor
Yeah, okay.
where people just go a bit nuts, and I'm generally like waving at people and then forget I have to pedal.
I think for HWR, that's probably the point most of the people die. And if you're racing in your own category, like in ZRL, then the climb is the cliffside road is the place where the other times you'll die. Lots of dying on this route.
One of the places that I have always found it is easy to get yourself a little caught out is just after the dirty suppressa. There's that one more little kick that goes into a downhill. And if you are not able to stick yourself on the back of that group, or if you get yourself at the very back of that group, but somebody loses a wheel, that is an easy place for a gap to stretch out real quick.
Yep.
Yeah.
If somebody is
Yeah.
6 meters behind the person in front of them, it can open up quickly.
Yep. Yeah, it's well, I mean it's a really good HWR course. It does, if you can make it onto the wheels in front of you, especially past that half of the epic KOM, you will have a very, very good result. The rest of us will be trying to catch whatever wheels we can.
It's also a really good one if you are looking to set a new 20-minute power, because that 20 minutes is right about to the end of the bypass. And if you are behind and chasing a lot of the time after being dropped on the suppressa, like you're gonna do a good 20-minute power. I think my best ever 20 minutes was on this. And I think it was in HWR.
Yep. Yeah, that's for sure. Ideally you're not chasing the whole way, but yes, you sometimes may have to. And bike choice, I think it's Tron because it's net flat.
And also because Pinktron should always be the answer to that question.
And because the Pinktron is the best. So yeah, Pinktron, I think, is bike choice. Yeah, I don't
think I can argue for
unless
anything else.
Yeah, unless you're you can survive the climb on an aero bike with disc wheels. I've seen some in ZRL who did that and won the sprint after that. So you have to know you will be able to hang on the climb.
Yes, if you're a scorekeeper or
Yeah.
Callahan or Jason Robinson, or I guess even if you know you're going to get dropped in any event, but you think you're going to be fast enough to hold with like the people you'd normally race with, and you want to beat them in a sprint, you could make an arrow with disc wheels stick. But I think for the rest of us mortals, probably just take your Pinktron and hope for the best.
In that situation, the likelihood that you're caught with someone who you're closer on the sprint than you are on the climb, like in power, is probably pretty low. It might be just better to take the Tron.
Yeah, especially because that long drag up the bridge across the bypass, like that's just like 3%, 2% for so long that I think you'll feel good on the Tron. Good.
Evening, guys.
Steph, how was your race?
Steph is here.
Pretty brutal, but I won't blame myself because I chose the course. So, but yeah,
All right, and now we got to ask what you're drinking.
recovery shake because I just finished like 5 minutes ago my race.
Fair enough. All right, we got any other tips for HWR? Race, have fun. We're into like the plus 16 races now. So this is the fun part in the standings where those of us who've done like 16 races just get to watch everyone who's done like one less race pass us when they get 85, 95 points by just showing up, and the rest of us get two because I, bumped one race off that I did, 13th place in 10 weeks ago.
I've looked at the standings last week, and there will be some changes in the top 10 probably, and maybe probably even the top 3.
Or races in the series.
Yeah, there's some people who are like at 90, like an average 95, 96 who only have like 15, 14 races in. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of shakeups coming.
How many more weeks are there left to get those extra points?
We're now at week 17 of 20, so four more races.
So if you're sitting at 12 or more races, you got to hit all the next 4 to try and maximize your finish position. Get in there.
Including one of the climbs.
I'm going to just pretend I didn't see that. Actually, it's Innsbruck. I like it. That's fine.
So
Good.
does James.
No, I liked it so much you did it 4 times on Monday.
It's a good workout. That's what I should have done. All right, let's move on to herd beginner racing this week. It is everybody's favorite beginner racing course, TikTok. So again, if you're listening to Pinktron and you are a beginner, herd beginner racing is a sorted out D category only with subcategories within the D category. So you'll be able to register and just race against people who are in the top, middle, or bottom of the D category as well. And it is a scratch race. TikTok is basically through the desert, up out of the desert, across the Col du Saddle Springs, down to the ocean tunnels, through the ocean tunnels, hang a right, back up, and finish at the desert banner.
I'm going to take the opportunity since James is here, and I'm going to ask him a question about how our custom categories should work. So James, where we've got the custom ZFDP limits, the watts floor should not be in effect. So lightweight riders who are in D but are over 2.7 ZFDP won't be able to join, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. No, I that was actually somebody had asked me, and I had meant to ask you for a while and forgot. So
yeah, I'm fairly certain the HBR races are done on ZFTP only, so there is no wattage floor on each category.
I didn't even know we could set a wattage floor in that, but because it's like D, right? D has no wattage floor.
You definitely can't. Don't ask.
Yeah.
no. So I mean the wattage floor to go into C, right?
No, I'm being facetious. The coding for the custom category limits can be. When I get it wrong the first time, I ask one of our developers to rewrite it for me, and I invariably get it wrong the first time. So yeah, I like HBR because it's nice and simple, and there's only one rule rather than occasionally 4 or 5 that we can get from other people.
Oh, what are our options, James? We're gonna have to talk later.
There are no other options. You can only have ZFTP.
We would never, James. I promise you. All right. Pick your most fastest aero bike, whatever you've got. If you're a beginner or something that's a good all-rounder, will work the trick. Mostly hang on and try and sprint at the end. Maybe if you're really feeling frisky, try and knock some people off after you come past the town in the desert as that little climb. Now there's much else to say. Any other thoughts?
You've got roundabout climb. So straight after roundabout, you've got probably 60, 90 seconds, but probably averages 3.5%, 4% before you go shooting downhill. So there's definitely an option for a breakaway there. It might not last because the rest of the lap is flat apart from the 2% section you've got going into the desert. But I think that's probably your only viable option of an attack.
Yeah, you can definitely, if you're at the strong end of the category, if you go your reasonable 3-minute sort of pace, like up to like threshold plus 10% type numbers, you'll drop some people off there if you try it, for sure.
Yeah, I think an attack there, the purpose is to drop good sprinters who don't have the sustained power you do. It's not to try to win, because
no, I agree.
You can't win from there unless you're in the wrong category.
I think so it is a viable attack option, but only to thin out the back of the pack rather than actually like a solo breakaway for the next what's probably 8 kilometers.
Yeah,
at least. Yeah,
maybe 10.
Yeah, for sure. Good. So good job, all our beginners. We love having you guys out there. Numbers remain strong, so I hope everybody's learning lots and getting out and racing. It's good stuff. That brings us to the Climber's Gambit. Chris, I have no idea.
Climber's Gambit. We are in weekend 3 of 5 of our We Love Hills Valentine's Day edition of the series. And this weekend we are on the previously Brent and James approved Innsbruck KOM Forward.
Best 20-minute climb in the game.
Yeah, essentially a thinly veiled FTP test, a little over 7K at about 5.5 average percent. Not too much variance in this. It's pretty steady. It's a good 20, 25, 30-minute climb, depending on where you're at in terms of categories. I think it's pretty straightforward climbing bike, unless you're at the very tippy top end of A. You can go more aero or pink Tronny, but I'll let you guys decide. Other than that, pretty straightforward climb this week.
This is a week that I am not upset that I am sick.
Yeah, if you were a strong A, I could see the case for a Tron, because especially in Climber's Gambit with no draft, but all the rest of us mere mortals, it's light climber.
Got to be climbing bike, yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. We hit the start line for that at about 3.3K. Blast up to the top, and then enjoy the descent on the other side. And as a reminder, James, I know you're not familiar with this format, so the only thing that matters is the time on the hill segment for the event.
Oh, that sounds like an amazing concept. I can't imagine who could have possibly thought of doing that.
You should really check it out and maybe look at adopting it on a wider scale. I think it could have some really, really good legs, pun intended.
Yeah, I'll mention it to our racing management team and see what we can do.
I know you know a guy. Thanks.
I'm really curious how many people listening to this understand this joke.
I think my line manager may get it.
All right.
So just like for times, Brent at kind of top of B has done a 20-minute effort. Craig has done a 22.
I think 20 minutes is well into A.
Brent,
like there was a time when Brent and I were both like 4.1 stroke 4.19 Bs. I've never gone sub 20 on this climb.
but that's a B now, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, like when so
yeah.
So 20 minutes of 4.2, take off your 5%, would have kept you in B. But at my very, very, very best, I was a 4.4A. I have never gone sub 20 on this climb. I did this climb, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, around about 3.8, and my time was 23 minutes.
That sounds about right. So even for 3.3, 3.4 will get you up there in about 24, 25, probably around 25.
Yeah.
So it is more than an FTP test for most people.
Oh, I remember that race.
Still an FTP test. It's just you gotta change the ratio. So it's like 97% or 98% instead of 95% like a 20-minute.
Yeah.
There are nice recovery bits though. So I think around about a third of the way up, you've got a sort of flat section for a couple 100 meters. So you can go harder and then have a brief recovery and then go hard again, or go not quite as hard, but go hard on the flat, which is probably where you'll make up the most time, and then go moderately hard to the end.
There's another one about 2/3 of the way up, so there are a couple of flatter
Yeah.
bits.
There are.
It's not like the reverse version where it's,
Like
punch
hell
flat,
around
punch
for the whole
flat.
climb.
Yeah. I like the reverse side better. As
Yeah.
I've made clear before.
Because it takes less time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the meanest part is the longest, flattest bit is right at the end when you're going to be trying to like squeeze it out. So that's
Well, and I think there's a lot of time there. Like if you can,
yeah.
because you have to spin it up
When you
after a big long climb. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a lumber mill there, and that's like the last 2% ramp, and then you're gonna come on top. And if you're still strong and go through there, you can probably shave like 5-6 seconds.
I
compared
think
to the rest of
really
us who are dying.
similar. I think really similar to the volcano climb where you've got the flat section halfway through. What many people might not realize is that's where all the time vanishes and is actually such an important part of the climb, even though it's flat.
Good. Have fun with that. That brings us to the herd of mountain goats, the tour of fire and ice.
Ooh.
Which I guess downtown pier through the volcano, not the volcano climb, just through the volcano.
Yeah.
Across Dirty Sorpresa, out across the pier, I guess it is, or the Lake Air, the seaplane dock.
Yep.
And then up the start of Epic into the jungle, and then the Alp.
This is a mean course, just because actually you've got a decent climb that doesn't count for anything, no segments, before the actual god awful nasty climb.
Yeah, well, I guess it's interesting from a racing perspective whether you would like, do you even try to draw people? Like, do you punch it there, or do you worry about it, or you just kind of keep cruising till you get to the Alp because you're doing, most of us like 50 minutes an hour up the Alp, right?
I guess it just comes down to your strength. Like if you've got a good 3-minute burst in you, then that could be a viable option. If you think that actually I can't hold 60-minute power or 50-minute power, 70, 80, 90, whatever it is, if you're good on short stretches, that might be an option.
I think no matter how good you are in short stretches, an all out attack for 3 minutes is going to really hurt you if you've got an hour effort coming up.
I'm just trying to give people some hope, Craig. You've just destroyed it.
Maybe save the good 3 minutes effort for the start of the real climb.
Or just spread it out.
Yeah.
I feel like if you were strong enough to shake the group and not get it all chewed back up on the Alp, that you would probably just win the Alp by not doing that.
Pretty good chance.
I think full climber, I see like you're going to be spending almost an hour on the Alp. I wouldn't worry
Bike
about the rest
change?
of it. Yeah, you could do a bike swap.
No, there's no point in a bike swap.
No.
Just take your
2 bike swaps. You got to get one for the mountain bike through the jungle.
Not anymore.
No, I know.
Yeah. Have fun climbing the Alp. All you mountain goats, peeps.
So now Brent tells us all about Stampede.
Stampede, 18 kilometers on out and back again. It's a custom finish. I'm trying to remember where I put
Let's finish, Brent.
Not before the climbs, I remember that. I made it gentle. Yeah, it should end.
Is that just before you do the switchback that goes into the volcano?
Well, I think it's a little earlier than that because there's a lead in of 2.4K.
Okay.
So it's all the way through the desert, just past, I think it should be just past the sprint. Somewhere in the S's, I think, is where I've got it. I'll be honest, I just said 18K and that's about where it goes. So I guess we should ask while we got James here, like when you have custom distance and people are steering and they're shaving meters off on some of these turns.
Steering doesn't work in ITT events.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, that's easy enough.
Okay, regardless of that, as a more general question, if you have a custom finish, is that your own distance covered or is that some sort of cardinal distance?
It is your own distance covered, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So for every steering enabled race, we better make sure we're not doing custom finishes.
Yeah, because there's some gaming that can be done there. Yeah.
Yeah, I would generally recommend, if you have steering enabled, to use laps rather than custom distances.
Yeah.
All right. There you go. Sorry, back to Stampede. It is desert pens through the desert, up the Caldu Saddle Springs, down into the ocean areas, the ocean tunnels, and then the ocean tunnels, into the little hairpin S-turny things over to the forward sprint distance and then up into the S's and then ending before we get to the volcano. So it's a pretty flat 18K. Should be fast Bs will be in the 26, 27, 28 minute type range. A's low 20s. I'd be really surprised if the A's could clear 20 on 18K. That would be fast on this one. C's will be half an hour. D's will be 35-ish minutes. So go look at your power curve. Pretty much just set it. There isn't much. The little bit of punch out of the desert and a little bit on the tunnels and a little bit sort of coming off the sprint. Other than that, you're just going to want to be on that power target and holder. I think if I remember, this is basically like the last long one. I think everything else gets shorter after this for Stampede, this series.
And this is the last of the race previews, right?
Last of the race previews. It's the last ZRL. So, yep. Yeah, I guess we've got 16.5 on Classic, and that's about it. So this is kind of the last long one. Then we get some shorter ones. It's good that I think it kind of worked. I think the numbers actually for Stampede got pretty good with those previews. I think a lot of people tried it. So you can just cruise though and finish previewing the volcano and the rest if you want to preview the TTT for ZRL this week. And that brings us to the bullseye.
So it does bring us to bullseye. So I've been doing the bullseye stuff. Yes, I know I haven't updated the league points after this past week. But this coming week is Neokio Crit Course. It is 6 laps with 13 sprints. So you're welcome. Mark picked it. Blame him.
I really I've really noticed not doing bullseye. My sprint has just fallen right off a cliff. Not right off a cliff, but like not like I used to be able to do like those like ZRL like 3-4 sprints. Like ZRL on Tuesday, I didn't even go for the first 2 at all. Like I just sat in basically, and then I did take an FAL on Countryside though.
Nice.
I got not a first, a 8th or something like that, but
I was racing with the beginning of this and realized that my only chance at good points was doing those sprints and actually got second FTS on the railway. So
hey, nice.
Yeah,
railway one was weird in my ZRL race because we like it started like late. It felt like we came up across that like rise into it, and we were kind of like into the front, and I was like, oh, maybe I will go for FAL because I'm right on the front of this. And then all of a sudden it was like, here comes the crowd, and you're like, okay, I get this. All right, I'll shut her down and make sure I make rooftop and stay with the pack till we get to the temple. So
Yeah, railway is the really long one, isn't it?
oh yeah, it's like 600
Yeah.
meters.
So if you want to go for fastest over there, you really have to use a sprint and go early while others will be waiting to go for fall.
Yeah, I always start well behind the group and sprint into it at the beginning, like, start before the line. Which and then just hold like 600 or 700 watts for the entirety of the sprint, which
Yep. So coming back to Bullseye, Nyukio Crit Course, the 2 sprints are the alley sprint at 480 meters and the Castle Park sprint reverse at 210 meters.
is the reverse the one that is before like going uphill into the little temple or coming down out of it?
The reverse is the one where you go across the bridge and immediately hit the segment start.
Yeah, it's through like not through the brown.
You
area,
make the
black
left
area.
and then the right, and then you make a 90-degree right, and then hit the segment start right as you cross right as you cross the bridge or right after you cross the bridge. I can't recall, but
Yeah, it's middle of the bridge.
yeah, middle of the bridge.
The marker is middle of the bridge.
Yeah.
The thing to remember, though, of course, is it's Bullseye, and all that matters is who's first across the line, not who's the fastest through the segment. So you don't need to wind it up necessarily from the start of the segment if you think you can get there first from later.
No, you don't. But those couple 90-degree turns can play some funny things with the draft too. So it's yeah.
Good,
Yeah,
well, everybody-
and the 2 sprints are quite close together.
They
After,
are. There's
after
not
the
a big,
alley
there's not a
sprint,
big
you got
gap.
a little bit more recovery, but the both are close.
Yeah, and it's like uphill, right? To get to like you come out of the alley, you turn right, and then it's kind of like a 1-2% climb to get up around the top of the temple, then descend back down towards where the sprint line is.
No, other way.
Oh, it's the other way through the parking lot?
Yeah, so you go through the so you go through the Castle Park sprint. Then you go through all the twisties in the Castle Park.
Oh, the
and
uphill bit.
then through the alley.
Yeah, and the
And
alley
then
sprint is
then you make the big circle around to get back to
Got
the
it. All right.
yeah.
I've
yeah,
got it.
the alley sprint is the side where you start going left and right between the I think the parked cars or people
Pedestrians
walking
or
there.
something,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Got it. Good. Have fun 13 sprints.
Yeah,
It's good for you.
it is mostly.
It's not quite HSRL with 18 laps of downtown dolphin.
Oh, good Lord.
Not quite.
Like everyone on the podcast is currently making faces of
Our-
varying levels of discomfort, remembering
series-
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, our
I
series
still-
have really lost that James Bailey je ne sais quoi.
Yeah. Although I remember Ben hooking on with the bees in when you pulled that and it working very well for him.
Yeah.
You know, that
Very
one
badly for
was
me.
bad, but you know the one that was actually the murder was the 9 laps of Hilly. with the
It was
segment being KOM.
I was kind of like disappointed, but also really grateful that the boa on my shoe fell off after climb number 2, having like set my all-time PB on climb 1.
I was gonna say you beat me on climb 1. You were right up there after climb 1.
And then like my my shoe kept on getting looser and looser, and after I think I gave up on lap 4 where I was actually struggling to pedal because my foot kept on coming out my shoe.
That's fun.
That was a great event. It was like
Good times.
absolute masterpiece.
It was actually, and I think Steve joined us on the podcast while doing that race.
Are we talking about the 8 laps of hell?
That's the
Yes.
one. Brent and
I've
Brent,
just
James
rejoined
and
the
I
land of
called it
Wi-Fi,
9 because
but
we were in B at the time. But yes,
I have to explain why I've gone silent in the English countryside as I leave the train and rejoin the pod from my house. Yeah, that was fun. That was the Hillycom doesn't seem that bad, does it? It's only like 3-4 minutes, like 2.5 minutes when you're feeling sprightly. Just do that 8 times, be fine. Don't know what people worried about, James. Like they're just making a big
The only
deal of it,
downside
really.
is that you're doing helicopter in like zone 9.
Yeah, because it's
I've actually
14.
done that route as it's quite a nice little intervals training session because you can do the route in about 15 to 20 minutes and you pootle round and then you do the com as hard as you can. The problem is you don't really pootle around the rest of the time. A lot of the time in these staff events, there's always someone who's like, hey, I could just sit at like 2.5 watts a kilogram higher than everyone else in this group seems to be able to do because I don't understand how the start of a Zwift race works and I'm miles behind where I should be in the bunches. But I'll sit with you guys anyway because that'll make your lives fun.
Not that Steve's bitter about it.
That genuinely entertains me every time. About like almost every Zwift race, there will be. I'm sure there are people who I don't know whether like join late or something like that, or just don't get like go hard for the first 30 seconds. That said the actress of the bishop really there. But they'll come back past you sort of 5 minutes later, like doing 1.5, 2 watts per kilogram, more than everyone else in the bunch, and just kind of sit there and you can think, well, hey, you've got this like I almost feel sorry for them because they've got this untapped potential to race further up and get better results themselves. And you kind of think, well, is it that you don't understand? Is it that you just cocked up? Like we've all had trainer dropouts, but yeah, it must be super hard as well. Like
or are they just
platform that's
triathletes?
easily understood.
I think to be honest, though, it's actually a really good point that in your first Swift race, you don't know that it's going to be absolute carnage at the very, very start. And you might be stronger than the rest of the people in your group after you've sort of realized, oh, they all go really, really quickly. And I think as event organizers, Swift employees, everyone has a sort of like level of responsibility to actually educate these people, maybe in the pen, maybe on training sessions, and actually saying, guys, if this is your first race, get ready to sprint out the pen because it's going to be like that for about 30 seconds and then it's going to get calmer and then it'll be a lot more comfortable. It's never going to be comfortable, but it's going to be more comfortable than the start. And if you don't do this at the start, bye-bye.
Yeah, I think the tiny races that Zwift Insider organise are really good for that. I think you have people going like, don't forget it's going to be hard out the gate. And also I think because they're short, everyone's primed for it to be hard out the gate. So you just seem to get kind of the bunches go hard, settle down. I haven't seen it as much in those, so yeah, it's good.
I would actually say, as much as Zwift races, yeah, they're hard at the beginning. It's not like it was 3 or 4 years ago. Like 3 or 4 years ago, it was it was a sprint out of the pen, and
yeah, I agree.
It's not that anymore.
The closest we've been, I think, was the bull. Did you do the bullseye in the herd club champs, which was back to like big number, like high tens of numbers, like getting into like I think it's like 30 or 40, and like this is probably in the C's, I think it was, and it was just big numbers, and that's people going hard, and actually people who knew how to race on Zwift as well, which was so it was super hard out the gate, and then every time there was a little push before the sprint, people like, oh no, I know I need to be at the front of this pace, and it just like it was a super quick bunch, shelled before the first sprint, like it was really tough, but like just so much fun.
I think on Craig's point, if we go back say 2-3 years, you would probably be doing FTP ×2 or just either side of that for probably 90 seconds. Whereas now I reckon it's more like 30 to 45.
When it's not, I'm not doing 600 watts out of the pen anymore in a race. Like I
generally do 450.
Yeah, it's maybe half a minute at FTP. It's not ridiculous anymore.
Unless you're doing a Glasgow crit start where the sprint at the beginning is a segment.
Yeah, or Lutece
Yeah.
Express, say.
Yeah, Lutece was hard. Even this past week at ZRL, right? Getting to that first alley, it was pretty on.
I'm thinking RGB.
Lutece was
like
good. I think it's Steph, you'll remember this well. The ZRL where we did Glasgow crit, and there was a slight issue where everyone was called invalid as well,
Yeah.
which happened for like one of the ZRL races. So like everyone was super confused. Everyone was just going really fast. Like, I don't know where I am. Like, I'm pretty sure at one point I attacked Steph and like gassed him from our group. And we're trying to work together to finish as high as we can to get points to the team.
Yeah. Yeah, that didn't went well. I think we passed Connor on the way and we dropped him also.
All right, we should get to a bit of the main event of what we have brought our illustrious guest, Mr. Bailey, on to talk about, which is the Zwift Games, which I believe start March 1st. Am I getting that right?
March 1st, yes, March. So it's the whole month of March. So 31st, sorry, 1st through to the 31st.
And the prizes are a gold Tron. Am I seeing this right?
So for the elite racers, there's money up for grabs.
Yeah.
There is a gold Tron for the winner of each elite category, and we have sprints, epic, and climb. I think my favorite prize though is the overall, which is a Wahoo kicker bike that is gold. If you haven't seen
Is
it,
that in the public domain yet, James?
yes, it is.
Okay, because this came up, like guys were talking about this, and I'm like, because we were chatting to Wahoo about that as well, and I'm like, it's a really cool prize.
So as I think it's either yesterday or the day before, Zwift Insider updated their post to show the Wahoo special prize. And in all honesty, I didn't know what the special prize was until it was on Zwift Insider. So it's definitely in the public domain. But the winner of the overall elite championship will win a Wahoo kicker bike that is gold and has ZG 2024 written on it as well. And like from the pictures, it looks pretty special.
It does. James, like I looked at that when the Zwift Insider post came out, and like that's pretty cool. I don't care who you are, that's pretty cool.
Definitely. So Zwift Games is kind of like a culmination of everything we feel we've done really well in the last 18 months. So for the last 18 months, we've done, and my working at Zwift has led to me being unable to pronounce the letter Z properly, as well as I look at dates and I have no idea which way around months and days go. But our Z racing programs we're running for the last 18 months, and these
James, you're becoming Canadian.
I'm just very confused, Craig. Z racing, the premise behind Z racing is basically you've got an hour. So you've got 10 minutes to get changed, start your warm up, do a 30 to 40 minute race, and then you've got 10 minutes to cool down, jump in the shower, and be just about ready for your next work meeting. So Z racing was one of the big things we've done over the last 18 months, but we've also started to introduce racing genre clubs like our TT, Crit, Hill Climb, and most recently the epic races, which were included as part of Tour de Zwift. So we wanted to bring out our greatest ever racing festival, which combines the Z racing events as the sprint races in Zwift Games, the hill climb races, and also the epic races. So with Zwift Games at both an elite and community level, you have 3 sprint races. They're all around about 20 kilometers. And then you've got a hill climb. For A's and B's, it's the Alp. The C's and D's, it's a brand new route called Mountain Mash, which is essentially turn the wrong way out of the jungle pens and then go up the epic KOM. And we've also got an epic race, which is for A's and B's. I think it's 88 kilometers. It doesn't have the epic or the Alp in it. It's kind of lumpy, but it's long and it's going to be a real challenge. So we've kind of like amalgamated everything we've done well in the last 18 months, I think. And the racing clubs have been a massive success. Z Racing has been very, very well received. And I think Zwift Games is just going to be a fantastic festival of racing for a month. The end.
So there's just there's 3 sprint races, 1 hill climb, and 1 epic.
Yeah, so we start on Friday the 1st. There will be 4 days where sprint race 1 is available. Then we go straight into sprint race 2, the Tuesday to the Friday. Then the weekend is epic. And then Monday to Friday weekdays, a week afterwards, you've got sprint race 3. And then you've got the climb for the 2 days after that. And then the next 2 weeks are basically just makeup stages. What I'm probably most proud of is the fact we've introduced our women's only races into this program. So there will be 5 options each day for women Zwifters to enter races. And I've been working with female race organisers for like the last 6 months really, really closely to help them organise races, get feedback from them to this point where we're reintroducing women's only racing into our biggest ever racing program. So I'm very hopeful that they perform well, and really just because every women's race I've ever watched has been, whilst competitive, also massively supportive. Like, you just watch someone that's just dropped off the back and then loads of people just go, oh, Becky, come on, you can do it, you can get back on. And it's just brilliant to watch. So I would love everyone female that's listening, please try one of the women's only Zwift events. They're really supportive, they're great fun, and you'll make loads of friends as well.
Yeah. So on that, James, like I remember back to like season 1 of ZRL, and we were all super concerned because it was men's only and women's only. That was before it was mixed. And I'm not sure it was a bad decision. I like the mixed and women's only choices now, but at the time, like, man, did that give a kickstart to women's only Zwift racing.
I think, to be honest, Craig, so I mean, you'll remember at the time we had a mutual friend who couldn't race with us, and that was a bit sucky. And whilst, yes, we could make these men's only and women's only races, however, we don't want to take away that element of choice. We don't get me wrong, we'd love women to enter women's only races, but there are some women who actually prefer to enter mixed races. They like to try and kick bits out the blokes as much as they possibly can, and some of them are very successful at doing so.
James, I 100% agree. At right now, I like the choice, but it actually, what I'm saying is that that ZRL season 1 and having that really did give a big kickstart. Like, I don't think it's necessary to do it again, but it really did change the landscape. I think.
I think if you look at the volume of women's teams, both in Zero as a general thing, but also just look at how many women's only teams were on Herd, which has been absolutely fantastic. So whether or not that was caused by season 1 being men or women, or actually just the whole FOMO from Zero encourage women to join women's only teams. I'm not sure which it is.
Maryline, how do you feel about having women's only Zwift Games?
I'm happy it's women only also, because the women's only races are different from mixed races. So I think for me personally, it's both fun to do. Less fun if you're a mixed B, but okay. And so I like the choice. So for some races, it's fun to do them in mixed, and for some races, it's fun to do them in the women's field, and especially if the women's field is big. And I think with Zwift Games, there will be some pretty big fields, hopefully. So that should make a really good race.
I hope so. Tell all your friends, please.
Yeah.
One of the things I will say is there are two separate general classifications for Zwift Games. So there is mixed, where any event will count towards your GC, whether or not you do a mixed race or a women's only race. But there's also a women's only general classification. So if you only do the women's only races, then you will feature in that GC as well.
It's probably also because a lot of women have a different mixed category than their women only category.
True.
So you'll probably have to do them in the same category for one.
Do you know what? I hadn't considered this at all. My life is now 10 times more complicated, but we'll work it out as we can.
Yeah, you could just see James's face, like, oh no.
I thought this is all I thought about for like the last week. Zwift Games, women only, women only, women only. I'd not even considered this at all. I will work something out. I may have to do some manual changes here and there, but yeah, we'll work it out. Thanks, Marilyn. You've made my life so much better.
James, do you have any kind of expected field sizes? I know that like with the Z Racing, you were getting pretty big fields.
Women's only, no. I genuinely don't know. I have pushed this as much as I can do on Facebook, social. There's a very there's a women's only Discord group that is full of massively engaged people that Mariline's part of. We are hopeful that this Zwift Games outperforms what Z Racing has done in the past. I'm hopeful. I think it's a great program. I think there's a lot of choice, variation. There's new routes which we haven't touched on. You've got loop to loop, Jurassic Coast, the Zwift Games Epic routes, Mountain Mash. I think and hope it's going to perform exceptionally well, and I guess we'll see on the 1st of April.
The loop to loop, I was just looking, the loop to loop course looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so these new routes are so similar to Scotland, where the Scottish routes were specifically designed for racing. And if you haven't seen it, have a look at the National Federation Championships for Canada, France, and oh dear, there was one other one, but I've completely forgotten. However, the races were, sorry, Denmark. Martin, I'm really sorry. I forgot you, but I've now remembered. The races for those Fed championships were unbelievably good. The Danish ones were absolutely insane. It was attack, 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 attack. And this was over 7 laps of Loch Loop. If you know your routes, you know that is not a short race. But the Scottish routes were custom made for racing, and as have these new routes been. So we're confident that actually they're going to make really good racing routes, and people are going to race them and go, yeah, that was good. I want to do it again.
Yeah, that's super cool. It starts to sound like kind of IRL crit racing then. Like crit racing is just bonkers for an hour. And I'm kind of optimistic with Zwift that kind of it is a different viewing experience. I don't know. It feels like there's more of an opportunity with Zwift racing and to kind of get people into the sport, and that'd be something they can try, which is really cool as well. Like I don't think not many people watch crit racing, like, which is a shame because it is really exciting. But it just feels like, yeah, seeing this on Zwift, I'm sure there'll be community people televising their efforts and things like that, which would be a really exciting to see. And like you say, those specific courses being designed for it, like never a dull moment. having commentated on several dull moments in the past, Jane, as we realise that people are pedaling in groups and won't see each other for a while.
Stephen Pritchard, my one main memory of us being in a Zwift race is a whole lot of lava. I don't know if you remember, Gav Irons was listening, and then he was just screaming, 12 watts a kilo, as we both hit like the entrance. Yeah.
A point in a sprint for 57th or something
Now,
like that.
now,
Which is
James,
liberating.
just to bring up, didn't what happened at the very beginning of that race that sent you off the back was you got a ghost at the first at the power up immediately out of the pens, and then you were playing with it and got dropped on the beach?
No, I did get dropped to the beach, but I think that was mainly because I was trying to wave at Gavin.
Yeah, you were waving at Gavin, and both of you were playing with the ghost power up, which hadn't been in the races before.
Yeah, to be
I
fair,
was in
though,
the race and listening to you.
That was where I generally tend to get dropped anyway. But no, it's good fun. I think these will be like crit races without the falling over, which is obviously a plus.
Yeah. So the elite guys, do they have to do like, is there just like one category of elite and they've all got to be in the same races to go against each other? Is there like time zones or something?
No, they're all racing at the same time. I'm going to horribly consult Zwift Insider to clarify some times, which I did conveniently have open.
I think the elite racers are doing the sprint races back to back, isn't it?
Yeah, so all three back to back to back. So we're looking at probably best part of 60k. So the Sprint Elite races are happening on March the 2nd at 6 p.m. UTC, which for those of us in the UK is 6 p.m. Those of you in mainland Europe is 7. America, working out yourself. And the women are March the 3rd at the same time. Then we've got the Epic Championships on the 9th, again 6 p.m. UTC for both men and women, although the women's is on the 10th. And then we have the Climb Championships, March 16th at 6 for the men, March 17th at 6 for the women. And there's also the overall championships for grabs for the lowest time across your gender.
And it's just straight time, eh?
Yeah. It is straight time.
Yeah.
And is that the same for the community guys? Oh, sorry, Craig.
Yes, it is. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The number of leagues I now manage on Zwift Power has gone up to 9. That's a lot of refreshing.
So, Marjolein, have you taken a look at the Zwift Games 2024 Epic route and thought about it as a queen stage for HSRL this year?
I haven't taken a look, but it's probably a good one for HSRL.
It's 80K with how many what is that? 3 climbs, 4 climbs, and 6 sprints.
It looks amazing.
Sounds
Or
like a very good HSRL course.
Yeah, it's listed as 5 KQOMs and 5 sprints. So
it doesn't sound like enough segments for a really good HSRL.
It actually sounds like too many segments. Unless James makes them fix Swift Power.
I mean, really, if you're not doing a sprint like every minute and a half or a hill effort, what is it really HSRL?
So
7 laps of
maybe
downtown Dolphin or something.
Lead in is 2 kilometers. Length is 79.6. So we're talking about 81.6k with 878 meters of climbing, which I reckon is probably like big foothills level of climbing. But there are probably too many segments to count on this image I'm looking at. Probably more segments than Zwift Power can handle, so maybe we need to have a little look at that one.
yeah,
but the new routes that we're releasing for Zwift Games are currently Zwift Games only, but should be free ride available by mid to late April. which will be fun.
That's in time for a Queen stage for HSRL, I think.
Exactly.
Speaking of, this is not Zwift Games specific, but speaking of new routes, I can't remember the name of it, but the crit route around the castle.
Also correct.
Also crit.
Yeah, that's a fun course.
Yeah, I'm actually like really interested to get feedback on that because I've heard people say actually it's too hilly, the lead-in's too hilly, but I've also heard from people who've gone, this is a great course, I love it.
I wouldn't
I like
recommend it as a recovery ride course,
No.
Yeah.
but I think it's for a real crit race. It could be really good.
I just wish the finish line was at the bottom of the descent, right? Because it's basically like up down with like kind of a little flat
Yeah.
piece through the finish. The finish is like halfway through the climbing bit of it. And then, but I wish the finish was like at the descent because I think that would be just like pure chaos as you like descend through those loops and then try and finish at speed.
I don't like downhill finishes. I think they're silly.
I know, but that's part of the Zwift.
Basically, you want another rooftop rendezvous because that's basically a downhill finish as well.
So, James, I think the downhill finish, especially with steering added, it's there's so much skill in it. Like the draft is so much more staying in the draft until you try to make your decisive move.
I just think it's too dependent on your weight.
I think it's more dependent on timing and skill than it is on your weight. And
Fair enough.
I'm firmly a middleweight guy, sure, but
Yeah, I think it's what was the course we did recently that finishes through Makuri, like the little village there, and then you have a downhill finish. That felt a bit like if you attacked in the village, you could just stay off the front for a couple of Ks. And we were working quite hard to catch a guy. He was off the front. We couldn't catch him, which is because the speeds are higher, right? Yeah, it'd be interesting. Like the steering's really cool. Like I don't think I've worked it out yet, but I think that's me and my coordination problem than the steering problem. But yeah, it's pretty cool. You can do some more shenanigans with it. You can definitely increase your panache by diving right or left and attacking a chronometer. So,
oh, Steve, you need to watch Federation Finals. There's like Panache Central.
where can we watch those, James? Are they on the Zwift YouTube channels?
The Canadian one is on Zwift Community Live. The French one are on their Twitch channels, but I don't have to hand. And Denmark did their own production as well. So I will find links and attach them to a comment on the Facebook post with this podcast afterwards.
And
thank you.
Are all the routes having fixed power-ups at the banners where you get power-ups? Like every single race has got that? Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Fairly certain they all do. Yes.
Interesting.
So power-ups can be, if you watched any of the CGP events, sort of Grand Prix, you might have seen some where specific power-ups are offered at specific banners. So you then have the choice of, actually, do I want to use that power-up at the next whatever, or do I want to hang on to it for somewhere where it might be a little bit more useful later on in the race?
Yeah, well, it's been well, I guess we've had those in ZRL, kind of that same system.
True, yeah.
But then the other place that we've kind of had a similar thing, although this might start to fall into the things that annoyed me about Zwift in the last month, is the Tour de Zwift in I can't remember if it's in the race versions or the ride versions, but where you get one power up, and if you use it, you're done. And then next time you go through, every other banner is just an XP.
I honestly cannot remember any power-up customization on TDZ.
I guarantee
So
you, one of the TDZs. I can't remember if it was the race version of TDZs, like the epic. You know what I mean? They were called, were they called Epic Race? Is that what they were
yeah,
called? Yeah, I feel it was in those that you just got the one power up, and then when you used it, you were done. And
okay, that's
that
interesting. I'll definitely have a look
it
back.
messed me up.
Yeah,
You know what the best surprise power up I got in the last week was?
Steamroller.
No, first banner at in ZRL was a 250 XP.
Yay, big XP.
They didn't have that, and I was like, "Oh, giddy up! I love it."
So I
Really
think
useful.
I think big XP. You have if you spin XP, you have a 1% chance of getting big XP. So basically, for every 100 XPs that you might have won at the banner, so that's basically 1 in 400 chance.
Except when you're on a climb portal.
Yeah, climb portal.
Yeah, which I don't know. Again, I always sort of talk about the rap we're on here sometimes, but I was listening to Nathan Garrett talk about his like sort of min-maxing the XP on the climb portals, right? And he's just like on like Cheddar Gorge going like 5 watts per kilo to the top in repeats and getting all 7 segments in, whatever. What would that take him, like 9 minutes to do Cheddar Gorge or something?
I think I was like, so I did 4 cheddar gorges in an hour and a half up and down, and that was like zone free, like nothing particularly hard. But in terms of like the big XP on Climb Portal, that was definitely an issue when we first launched. But you'd get big XP almost every other, so you could like get it like 5 times on
Has it
a
been
climb.
deprecated now?
There were definitely levels of there's definitely been a fix. I don't know to what extent it has been fixed,
Interesting. Well, there you
but
go.
there's definitely. I don't think I got it at all on my 4 laps of Cheddar Gorge. So,
I'm
but
glad I have
if
not been
Rebecca
updated.
Hansen is listening, we do need to refer to it as Cheddar George.
Cheddar George.
I will send her the link to this podcast.
Love it.
Excellent.
Love it. I'll just also say
a
for women's
viewer,
racing.
a viewer,
Yeah.
or a listener.
Oh,
Sorry,
we
have no
have
video.
like a very regular loyal group. I'll also say for on the women's racing stuff that again, the wrap was an amazing episode this past week with those 2 gals.
Becca Neeson and M. Nyquist.
Right, they were amazing.
I've been speaking. I mean, she said during the podcast, but Becca and I have been talking for like the last probably 6 to 12 months about various ins and outs of racing events, anything that makes like a women's event better. And her passion behind the women's site on Zwift Insider has been phenomenal. And I hope it lets us launch women's racing in a way that we can include it in our monthly racing programs where I don't have to worry about, are we going to get 50 people turning up to this event? Because I really want women's racing on Zwift to succeed. But there are a number of events that have like less than 5 people turn up and no one finishing. So by including these in Zwift Games, this is our first real push to try and make women's only racing work. And I really hope it does.
Yeah. So if you're curious what he's referring to in that website, it's zwiftinsider.com/WMN. So go if you're a lady, listen to this and you're curious about racing or whatever the heck we're talking about, go there. I mean, ask us questions in Herd, ask us in Herd Racing. We'll help you all out too. Any of us, Maryline, anyone else who's been on here. But
if you'd like to take part in the let's call it Zwimmen, the women's only Zwift Games events, it's zwift.com/tag/ZG2024WMN, which I'm sure everyone will remember.
So if you just heard
I
that,
will.
get your pen out, rewind back 30 seconds, and write that down.
I will
Or
also
James is
post a
going to put
link
it in a
the
comment
comments.
afterwards.
Yes, indeed.
That too. So what do the community people get when we win? Do we just get like a lame yellow hat or something?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, Brent, because I do have the page open that tells me all of this information. And I had anticipated this being the first question before you asked me about various other things. However, so 5 stages. If you complete 1 stage, you win Adidas shoes. If you complete 2 stages, you get the Oakley sunglasses. 3 stages, you get the Zwift Games kit. 4 stages, you get the Zwift Games gloves and socks. And finally, if you complete all 5 stages, you get the gold cap, which is surely enough reason for anyone to want to complete all 5 stages. You can be bathed in gold on your head, which in my case will hide my receding hairline.
I will say that's
Just-
actually one of the better looking hats on Zwift. There's some terrible ones, so
Or my gray. My blonde highlights.
I tell you what, Craig, like
that they are to my wife.
I used to like shave and get rid of like the white hairs, but now I shaved and the stubble is now white.
oh.
Makes me sad. Or old, or both.
Well, that's why there's Zwift, right? We're forever young on Zwift.
Indeed.
So, any of us planning on doing Zwift Games? And I think I now that ZRL's coming to an end, it looks like it might be another thing to keep me motivated.
Yeah,
As the employee, I'm going to say yes. Obviously, of course, I'm going to be doing Zwift Games. I just don't want to do the Alp. Like 81 kilometers of epic, I have no issue with, but I just don't want to race up the Alp again.
At least it's not Ventop, James.
Well, I did Ventop on Monday, to be honest.
why?
James, I remember just how
Yeah, James, do you have
battered
flashbacks
you
about
were
Ventop?
after when you did Ventop in the first
HCC.
Zwift Club Championships?
I was the top of all these.
That was an amazing climb, but you were dead afterwards.
Oh, mate, I couldn't do anything for a week.
I know.
I did Ventop at like 3.95 and then the time trial at about 2.9, and that was all I could do.
Except for that last sprint on Dutchy.
Yeah, the one rage sprint.
I was really like I think I did like 14 and a half for 15 seconds because I was so angry.
For those of you who are new to the herd, in the first club championship, as James has described, he won the bees on Ventop, died, could not do the rest of the races, got dropped in the bullseye, which was I think the last stage or maybe the second to last
Yeah,
stage.
It was the last. Yeah.
But after being dropped, he absolutely murdered the last sprint like there's been no sprint murdered before. After he cruised around the last 4 laps after getting dropped at like 1.5.
So
it was beautiful.
And we all enjoyed it immensely as we were all like dying and breathing and just laughing.
oh, deep sigh.
Good stuff. Well, I think perhaps with that little trip down memory lane, we will say thank you to Steve Pritchard, Maryline DeVlager, Chris Greenland, who all left for other commitments in the meantime. Thank you to Sean Fogenberg. Thank you to Stefan Jen. Thank you to Craig Martin. And an extra special thank you for his Pinktron return to James Bailey. Moo and good night.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks.
Night.